Welcome to the VET S.O.S Veteran Entrepreneur Spotlight. Remember, don't drown in the sea of transition. Grab the VET S.O.S Lifeline. Veteran Entrepreneur Spotlight is sponsored by SpearPoint Solutions. SpearPoint Solutions is a one-stop shop for leading-edge products, services, and training from multiple vendors. From AI training to corporate gifts and much more, they have everything you need to help your organization thrive in the modern economy. Check out the valuable offerings at spearpointonline.com, and remember to use the code VETSOS on anything you purchase there. That will help us continue the mission of improving the lives of those who have served our country. Today, we are sitting down with Chris McGhee of Falcon Forward Law Group. Chris McGhee is the founder, a veteran disabled firm dedicated to advocating for the rights and benefits of veterans. Having served in the Air Force for 20 years as a jet mechanic, Chris brings a unique perspective and tenacity to his legal practice. His firm is committed to providing personalized and effective representation for veterans seeking VA disability benefits. In addition to his legal work, Chris is actively involved in systematic suicide advocacy, working to address and reduce suicide rates among service members. Sounds like a great mission. Chris, how you doing today?
I'm doing really good, Shawn. How you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. It's a wonderful day. And getting to talk to veteran entrepreneurs, can't think of a better way to spend my time. It's just going great. So let's start with your transition. So real quick, how was your transition out of the military?
My transition wasn't bad, but it was certainly because I had a plan laid out. I knew what I wanted to do. Certainly moving from an F-16 mechanic over 20 years to law is not a easy transition to make. But I had the plan. I knew what I was going to do. So it's like most things in life. You put one foot in front of the other, and next thing you know, you're doing the thing that you weren't sure if you could do.
Not that natural transition from jet mechanic to lawyer. But no, that's fantastic. And I love to hear that you had a plan and you worked your plan, and that's wonderful. And something that, we try to tell service members all the time, have your plan, figure out what you want to do and, get after it. So that's great. So what led you down the road of wanting to be an entrepreneur?
Essentially, retiring and having my service pension, also my VA disability, allowed me the freedom that essentially my bills were covered by my pension, which gave me the freedom to step out on my own and do something that a lot of young attorneys really aren't necessarily able to do because of financial reasons. And I've worked obviously for an organization for 20 years. And when I retired, part of that retirement was also to step out and do something that was that I could control and that I could do for myself and have that freedom to go in the direction that I want and essentially rely upon my skill set to carry me.
That's awesome. Yeah, and it's so true. Having that pension and the disability thing that makes it, I would say a little easier. At least you're not freaking out about where the bills are going to get paid from necessarily as you build what you're trying to build. So tell us what's the best part and worst part about being an entrepreneur?
The best part about being an entrepreneur is just the freedom to work at any hour. Essentially, if it's 10 p.m. on a Sunday and I have free time in my schedule, I will start working and I don't have to worry about clocking in or clocking out or do anything like that. I just go into my workspace and I begin doing work and kind of grind through and do what needs to be done. Or, taking the day off and not having to worry about a vacation balance or coordinating or anything like that. Essentially, I have the freedom to do what needs to be done based on my own best judgment because I am the person that essentially sets my schedule and decides these things. The hard part is it's a bit of a double-edged sword. Is the pay is all reliant upon the labor that I put in, and in this area, because it's all contingency fee, the pay comes in leaps and then troughs sorts of. So it's a reliance on just being able to carry yourself and understand that you're not paid today, but you are going to be paid eventually, and that can be a bit scary at first.
Yep, definitely, absolutely. That's a great point. Okay, so did you do or participate in any entrepreneurial programs along the way? Was there any, like additional training or things like that you looked into as far as running the business side of things?
I'm not sure if it was necessarily formal training. Really, what it was when I was working for a VA disability firm while I was doing the substantive law work, I was also paying attention to the processes and procedures, and kind of expanding the aperture of my own observation and training to kind of capture more than just the legal work as it entailed, trying to see what the interactions are between hearing scheduling, hearing coordinating, client intake, client questionnaires and reviews, getting this sense of what are the things in this line of work that the average attorney working for a VA disability law firm isn't necessarily going to see or pay attention to. So that way I had a good understanding of what was going to be on my plate when I stepped out on my own.
Very nice, very nice. All right, so let's talk about Falcon Forward Law Group. What are you guys doing?
We are a VA disability firm, predominantly. As a disabled veteran myself, I'm very passionate about representing veterans because I understand that what they went through is a very unique experience, both practically but also legally. And essentially, all of the sorts of restrictions on redress that a service member has, they can't sue the military for harms. They've suffered it through their military service generally, and then VA disability is the pathway to compensation for any sorts of injuries incurred in the military, and that is something that I think my background provides unique insights and understandings of what people go through. So, interfacing with clients, there's a lot they don't have to explain, a lot they don't have to unpack. I just naturally know it from 20 years of working in aircraft maintenance, United States Air Force.
Okay, and so how's that whole process work when people come to you?
Essentially, they just go to my website, www.fafo-law.com. If they want to do a free consultation, they essentially set that up. They provide some intake information so I get a sense of where they are in their case, how long they served, things of that nature. Very often there's a follow-up intake to get more clarification. And then the consultation is set up, either done over Zoom or through a phone call, whatever they prefer most. Get a sense of what they need and what I can offer. And then essentially, if it is a case that I think I can help with, I'll take them on. And then everything is done essentially virtually and digitally because of, COVID actually allowed the VA to make leaps and bounds as far as their technological advancements. So now many of the hearings are either done through paperwork with the AMA. Essentially, they changed a lot of the appeals process, or virtually through a Zoom hearing where the client or the veteran can essentially testify from the comfort of their own home to a veterans law judge, and I provide representation there. I help with appeals of all varying complexities and help them gather evidence and strategize their case, and then represent them and present evidence to the Board of Veteran Appeals.
Okay, so what leads them to getting to the point of having to do a hearing?
Very often they've submitted a VA disability claim and they're denied by the regional office. They may have tried a simpler sort of appeal, a higher level review that came to the same conclusion that denied them service connection. So at that point, essentially, the VA is saying there's insufficient evidence to create a service connection. It could be because the current diagnosis or symptoms is insufficient for compensation. It could be the in-service event that the veteran is claiming is the source of their disability may not be recognized by the VA, or it could be that the connection between their current diagnosis and symptoms and the in-service event is too tenuous that the VA has not agreed that it's service connected, in which case that higher level review or that regional office has decided not to grant them a VA disability rating. And that's at that point essentially where I would come in and either point to evidence that the VA is overlooking, or restructure the argument in such a way that the VA recognizes that it may not be a primary service connection. It could be a secondary service connection. Essentially, their condition is a secondary effect of an already service-connected event or injury.
Okay. And so, why would you recommend people become an entrepreneur? Like, what is there something that you really can point to that you say, if you have the opportunity, go do this?
I think the key part of your question is if you have the opportunity. And again, I talked about my pension kind of being able to support myself, but also something that I didn't quite realize was so impactful was also my healthcare for myself and my dependents. I'm very privileged and kind of spoiled that I have that healthcare because I didn't have to consider that financial burden when I was going to step out on my own. But being an entrepreneur, it's really indescribable. There's a really big difference between getting a paycheck for work that you've done and getting income from your work exclusively. I didn't even understand that was going to be an important aspect, but when I got my first notification of payment to my firm for the very first essentially a case or an issue that I had won on behalf of my client, I didn't even though it was certainly not as much as my regular monthly paycheck that I was getting when I was salaried, it was a very amazing feeling to know that every dollar that I had received was earned solely through my efforts and my handiwork. And it's one of those things where you realize that your earning potential is essentially limitless. It is based solely upon how much productive output you are capable of. In my case, as a sole proprietorship, as the only individual doing the work. But even if you're leading a company or you are building a brand, very similar. It's all of your efforts are poured into this thing, which means there is no yearly salary cap on what you're capable of earning. So it's a different model that to me was quite surprising when I got that first sort of payment.
Outstanding. Well, Chris, we want to thank you for joining us today on VET S.O.S. And sharing your entrepreneurial story and what you got going on. On behalf of the VET S.O.S. family, we'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. You can find VET S.O.S. on all your favorite podcast platforms, including YouTube and various social media platforms. Make sure to subscribe and follow so you don't miss a thing. And remember, don't drown the sea of transition. Grab the VET S.O.S. Lifeline.